In this presentation, we're going to look at how we declare a function and the important parts of the function. So here, I'm declaring a function called printCars. PrintCars has a return type of void, which means it returns absolutely nothing. It doesn't do a calculation and return a result. In this case, it actually prints something, and that's what we're calling it for. What it prints is a character which we pass in the parameter list as ch, and then we pass an indication of how many of these characters we want printed. It's going to print that number of characters on a single line and then print a new line. In order to do this, it has an int I. It runs a for loop. Every time through the for loop, it prints out one character, and %c is the format code for a character. So whatever character was passed, it prints out one of them and does that again and again and again. There's no new line, so it all comes out in one line. And then after it exits the loop, it prints one new line at the end, which is what we see there. To invoke this function, main starts out, and it looks like your average main, and it calls printCars. In order to invoke a function, all you have to do is put in its name and then supply it with the parameter list. Now, the parameter list up there is called the formal parameter list, and the one down here is called the actual parameter list. And they are passed position-wise. So that dash is going to be passed to the ch, and the 40 is going to be passed to how many. The first gets passed to the first parameter, the second parameter. So we're just passed like that. Now those values get passed down. Inside, that's known by the name ch and how many. Here it doesn't have any names because these are actually literal constants. But we could use variables as well, and the variable names we use in main do not have to be the same as the variable names inside the function. We'll be talking more about that later. Then I printf, this is an example of a simple function, and then I call my function again. Now I can call a function as many times as I want. So I'm calling it again, and now I'm going to print not 40 dashes, but 40 asterisks. So all I did was I changed the character, and I said 40 again, and I'll run it and show you what it does. It prints out a row of dashes, says it's an example of a simple function, and then prints out a row of stars. And we can control exactly how many by this parameter, how many. Now the way I designed this was with a little bit of thought. I could have said, oh, I'm going to create a function to print stars, and then I'll create another function to print dashes. But in reality, the difference between one that prints stars and prints dashes is just the character it prints. So I pass that down as a parameter and then tell it to print whatever I passed. Therefore, I can easily use the same code to print out different things. The other thing it changes is how long the line should be. So I included a parameter of how many, and that tells it how many there are, and it goes and prints that many. Now this makes it highly reusable because if I had a thing that only printed dashes, that's all I could do. But now I can use the same function to print dashes as I use to print asterisks. I can make the lines of different lengths, and I get a function which is usable in a far greater number of situations. Now the other thing I want to mention is that we define the function before main. And most C compilers, when you call a function, they want to see it defined before you call it. Otherwise, they can get confused and not see the definition. So make sure that you define them before you use them in main. So that's it. A little introduction to functions.